The session open, as you can see on the right hand side of your screen, you have a blue square which is reading the price of 125.26. This will give you the open price for the new session that you're trading. The reason why it's important for us, and we have integrated this into our program, is whenever we're starting a new session, we need a base. We need something to reference in order for us to get a better idea of the trend or the direction of the market. If we have a starting price of 125.26, or an hour and a half later, the price is at 125.10 or 124.50, we can have a better interpretation of the price movement. Obviously, it had moved lower. And that's the reason why it's important for us to have a session open for every session that we're trading. So in this case, the session open was 125.26. And allow us to show you on the left-hand side. Here you can see open price, high and low. When we go to the candle at 7 o'clock, you can see on the top left-hand side, it says open 125.26. So this price up here is going to be exactly the same price that you're going to see here on the right. Let's show you once again. Open price, look on the left, 125.26. Look on the right, 125.26. So the calculation on this chart from the session that you're trading, here this happens to be the US session, is going to give you the open price for 7 o'clock in the morning. So we can use it as a reference point. And you'll be able to see it on the right hand side of your screen in this blue little box. And this will be for every currency pair that you may open. Next, we have HL. The HL is the high and low price, which could be referenced as support and resistance levels during the session that we're trading. Allow me to click high-low. As you can see, session high within this session, from this white line to the right, you can see the highest level and the lowest level of the session, and you can see it here, it's breaking, making a newer low, moving the session low further to 125.06, which gives us a clearer interpretation because the market is moving. Now take a look at the highest level. Session high is 125.45. Look at where the lowest price is, 125.06. It was just at 125.09. As you can see, as the price moved lower, so did the session low. It does it automatically for us, so we don't have to change or draw any white lines or lines across our chart. The system already does it for us, giving us a clear indication of the highest and the lowest levels of the session that we're trading. As you can see on the left-hand side, during the European session, we had a much higher level of 125.57. During the Japanese session, or further back, we had 125.62. But you can see the session high is only taking into consideration the new session, which is from 7 to the right. So once again, this feature simply gives us the reference points from the highest level and the lowest level of the session that we're trading, or the newest session, which happens to be, in this case, the US session. 7 in the morning until 1800 hours, from 7 in the morning until Japan opens. And that would be a start of a new session. And then the system will recalculate, put everything back to 0 until the open of the Japanese session. Next, we have the daily high-low. This measures the price movement starting at 1700 hours, which happens to be 5 p.m. New York time, until the following day at 5 p.m. New York time. As you can see, from 1700 hours, we're going to give you an example, which would be right about here. It measures the highest level, which is the daily high, which happened to be early on during the Japanese session, and the lowest level within a 24-hour period. This is a very useful feature in order to get an idea of the price movement during the previous sessions. For example, if you were trading during the Japanese session and the European session, and the trend was down, and as you can see, the price movement for the daily high was 106.76, And towards the end of the European session, the price was at 105.89 for the US dollar CAT. Based on the daily high and daily low, you would be able to see that the price movement was almost 100 pips, where there was still room for this currency to continue moving lower if the trend were to continue during the US session. As you can see here, it did continue moving lower. Once again, the daily high-low simply measures the price movement within a 24-hour period, starting at 1700 hours, which happens to be 5 p.m. New York time, until the following day at 1700 hours, where it resets and starts calculating for the new day. Next, on the left-hand side, we have our retracement feature. This retracement feature is very good and useful for entry points, especially if you place a lot of your trades based on retracement levels. During the US session, the trend was down for the US dollar Canada. Now I want you to take a look at the lowest level. I'm going to click on high-low just to give you this example. The daily high-low will be the same as the session low because the lowest point happened during the US session. Now I want you to look at the right. You have a price of 104.84. Because the trend was down for the US session, from the lowest point you can see this yellow marker says 57. That means that the price has retraced from 104.84 to where the price is right now, 105.41, 57 pips. Many traders like to use Fibonacci retracement levels, which are calculated in percentages. All we did is change from percentages to the actual pip value from the lowest level when the trend is down or from the highest level when the trend is up. Because you can see the start of the US session was 105.93, the trend was lower, below this point, which was our reference point. So that's the reason why the system will read from the session low and not the session high. If the price were above the 105.93, the retracement feature would read from the session high, not the session low. So this is why the session open is a very important feature in this system. It will calculate the retracements for the session from the lowest point if the price happens to be lower than 105.93, as you can see here. If the price were to be above 105.93, it's going to give you the retracement from the session high, as if the trend was up, not down for the session. Next, on the left-hand side, we would like you to take a look at these 5 bars. We have the US dollar Canada, US dollar Swiss franc, US dollar Japanese yen, the British pound dollar, and the Euro US dollar. These 5 bars simply indicate the price movement for each one of these currencies starting at 7 a.m. New York time, because that's where we have set the parameters within the system, which can be changed manually by simply going to the main program. When you start the charts, you're going to get this globe and you're going to see an options field. In the options field, we're going to show you now, you have possible reversal levels, which are here, danger zones, which are for every currency pair, which you can manually change. We have the pivot points for when the pivot point starts to calculate. And most important, on the bottom, we can change the start of each session. As you can see here, we have set it by default. The US session starts at 7 a.m. and ends at 2000 hours. The UK session starts at 2 a.m. and ends at 7 a.m. New York time. The Asian session starts at 2000 hours and ends at 2 in the morning. If we were to change the US session from 7 to 8, your session start and all the calculations within the program for the US session only will start at 8 a.m. instead of 7 a.m. And if we change 2000 hours to 1900 hours, then the US session will start at 7 and end at 1900 hours. So you can manually change the program or change the settings if you want to, just by simply going to the options field and changing the parameters here. And on the bottom left hand side, as we were mentioning, the trend crosses, which were the bars that we were showing you, you can manually change the Euro USD to a different currency pair, like the Aussie, the Euro Yen, or Pound Yen. You have up to 14 different currencies that you can choose from, including gold, oil, and the Dow Jones, by simply clicking on the cross that you want to change and choosing the currency pair that you would like to replace it with. Now allow me to go back to the chart. As you can see the bars here on the left hand side, we simply want you to look at the bottom of your screen. Here we have 2015. This is the start of the Japanese session. Now on the left hand side we can see these 5 different currency pairs, and we have the current market price, and we have USD CAT 22. This is the actual pip value from the start of the Japanese session and how much the price has moved from 2000 hours until now, which is 8:19 at night here in New York. So it's calculated from 2000 hours and a price movement of 24 pips on the dollar CAT. On the US dollar Swiss franc, the price has moved 16 pips. And as the price moves or changes, you're also going to see the change on the pip value. Here you have the US dollar yen, US dollar pound. As you can see, it's 22, the euro's 19. The reason we like this feature is to give us an idea of the correlation of different currency pairs that we might be trading to compare with the chart that we have open. Here we have a chart of the US dollar CAT. What moves in correlation with the US dollar CAT? The Australian dollar. It might be reversed, but the price movement is very similar. So I can have the Aussie here instead of the US dollar CAT to give me an idea of the price movement. Also, we have the US dollar Swiss franc. As you can see, the CAT is up 23 pips. US dollar Swiss franc is moving in the same direction and is up 16 pips. Now, because the pound and the euro are reversed, you can see the pound is first, the dollar second, the euro's first, the dollar second. They're in red. They've actually moved down 19 pips from the start of the Japanese session, therefore giving us a very good correlation, telling us that the US dollar is gaining strength versus these two and gaining strength versus these two, which is the Swiss franc and the Canadian. Once again, these tools were created to help simplify the price movement and the direction of the trend. Now on the top left hand side of your screen, we have the candlesticks, and also you can change your chart from candlestick chart to a bar chart. We have a few indicators that many traders like to use, like the MACD, RSI, stochastics, moving average, Bollinger Bands, and pivot points. We also have added dojis, hammers, I hammer, 3 black crows, and 3 white soldiers. Possible retracement features which help us while we're trading. And before we end this topic, on the left hand side, we also have which help us with the price movement. They help us draw trend lines. And last but not least, help us write text on the chart. If you would like to erase it, all you simply have to do, click on the X, and then we have everything disappear. And this is where we end this topic. If you have any questions regarding any of the features of this program, please send us an email to info@forexgs.com.